Right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today we're going to do a deep dive on 8T Clothing, a brand, honestly, that I hadn't heard about until you sent me the link to their Indiegogo campaign. And their website, of course. They use this phrase, expressive casual, which I don't know about you, but my first thought was, okay, what does that even mean? And then go into their website, and it's just like a sea of hoodies. I kind of thought, well, this is just another streetwear brand that's, trying to dress up what they're doing. But we're going to find out. So looking at this Indiegogo campaign, they're trying to get funding, I guess, for expanding their design and production, their marketing. And they've already got over 140 products. So it's like a lot of hoodies, joggers, hats, even custom shoes. It's a lot of products.
Yeah, that's quite an extensive catalog for a brand that's still sort of in its early stages. And I think that's one of the things that kind of jumps out at me when we look at this campaign. It's interesting how they're using this kind of tiered funding model. So, they're not just aiming for one lump sum. They've got these different levels. So like if they hit 17,000 pounds, they're going to be able to invest in like a better workstation for their design team, get some samples made, do some website upgrades, like really essential kind of foundational stuff.
Yeah, the basic.
Then if they get to 53,000, it's marketing. So really getting the word out there, which is so important.
Absolutely.
Then 107,000, they can start investing in like professional video. So really kind of, I guess you could say, upping their game in terms of the content they're putting out there.
Yeah, stepping it up.
But then this is where it gets interesting. They've got this 188,000 pound goal, and that's for a vehicle. A vehicle? What's a clothing brand doing with a vehicle?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Like, is this going to be a fashion food truck or something? Like, what's going on here?
I mean, maybe, maybe they're going to have a mobile pop-up shop situation. Or like, could it be like a mobile design studio, take their creative process on the road?
Okay, now that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Like going out and maybe collaborating with different artists in different cities and kind of offering a unique experience.
Right, like building a whole world around their brand, not just, selling clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's something that they're really pushing for here, because if you look at their stretch goals, even beyond that vehicle goal, they've got things like, if they hit 224,000 pounds, they're going to do these giveaways for backers to kind of show off their 8T outfits online.
Right. Yeah.
And then if they hit 260,000 pounds, they're going to do like a user-generated content challenge.
Yeah.
So again, really leaning into that community aspect.
That's a really clever way to boost engagement. And let's be honest, marketing. Right. Like you're getting people to do the marketing for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this speaks to a larger trend that we're seeing in fashion right now. Brands are really realizing the power of community, the power of online presence. It's not just about having a sleek website anymore. It's about having this engaged community that's creating content, that's sharing their experiences.
So it's not just about buying a hoodie. It's about being a part of something.
Exactly.
And then looking at the perks they're offering on Indiegogo. They've got everything from custom water bottles to bundles of clothes. There's even a perk if you give them 1,700 pounds. You get a partner store page. Like, what is that?
That one really caught my eye, too. It's called the Your Brand X8T Clothing Partner Store page. And it makes you wonder, what is their business model here? Like, are they trying to empower other creators or brands to kind of get in on the action?
Yeah, that's wild. Most brands, they really guard their image.
Absolutely. They're very protective.
So to see a brand that's willing to be so open to collaboration, especially a brand that's, relatively new, that's really interesting.
It is. It's a very unconventional approach.
So they're funding design, video production, a vehicle, and they want other people to sell their stuff. I mean, It doesn't sound like they're following the typical fashion playbook here.
No, they're definitely not playing by the usual rules. And I think that goes back to this whole expressive casual thing. Maybe it's not just about the clothes. It's about their whole approach to business. It's about breaking down those traditional walls between brand and consumer and creating something that's more collaborative, more community-driven.
So they're not just selling clothes. They're selling a whole new way of thinking about fashion.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. It's not just about looking cool. It's about belonging to something, being a part of a community that shares your values.
And I think that's something that really resonates with younger generations, They're using fashion to signal their identity, to connect with like-minded people.
Right. It's more than just clothes. It's a statement. But all this talk about community and movements and disrupting the industry, it sounds very ambitious, especially for a company that's running an Indiegogo campaign.
It's a bold vision for sure, and it remains to be seen whether they can pull it off. Building a movement is no easy feat,
No, it's not.
especially in the world of fashion where trends change so quickly.
Right. What's hot today is gone tomorrow.
Exactly. But there's something compelling about their vision. In a world that's so dominated by fast fashion and, kind of this disposable approach to clothing, their emphasis on sustainability, on community, on individual expression, it feels refreshing.
Yeah, it does. So you think they might actually be onto something here?
Yeah.
That this expressive casual could be more than just a marketing gimmick?
I think it has the potential to be something really special. They're tapping into a real desire for authenticity, for connection. That, I think, resonates with a lot of people, especially younger consumers. But the big question is, can they deliver on their promises?
Right. Can they actually walk the walk? Well, before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's take a closer look at what they're actually selling here. Over 1,000 products on their site.
Over 1,000. That's a lot of expressive to unpack.
Yeah, we got to dive into that and see what this expressive casual actually looks like.
Let's do it.
Because right now I'm picturing a lot of hoodies. And while I love a good hoodie, I'm hoping there's more to the story.
Let's hope so.
All right, so we've talked about, the community and their business model and everything, but we got to get down to the clothes themselves, right? Over 1,000 products. What is the aesthetic here? What are these clothes actually like?
Yeah, you're right. We can't just talk about the ideas without actually looking at what they're putting out there. And I'd say it's definitely rooted in streetwear, but they're adding their own spin to it. There's a lot of bold colors, interesting patterns, even mixing in elements from different cultures. It's not just your typical hoodies and joggers.
Right, and we talked about them using a lot of lines in their designs, like straight lines, crooked lines, all sorts of lines.
Yeah, it's like they're adding another layer of expression with those lines. It's not just about the graphics or the colors, it's about the shapes and how they interact with the body. It's a very visual approach.
So you mentioned them drawing inspiration from different cultures.
Yeah.
What are some examples of that? Like, what are we seeing on these clothes?
Well, they're using traditional patterns and motifs from different cultures, but they're not just like copying and pasting. They're kind of reinterpreting those elements in a more modern streetwear context.
Okay, interesting. And are they designing for both men and women? Or is it like a very specific niche?
They have collections for both men and women. And it's not just an afterthought. You can tell they're really thinking about, the different needs and preferences of each gender.
And out of those 1,000 products, what are some of the standout pieces? Like what really caught your eye?
I mean, their hoodie and jogger sets are definitely their core offering. They've got a ton of those, all different colors and designs. Each one kind of has its own vibe. Like, you've got the Founders Collection, which has a more classic streetwear look. Then there's the HWI Collection, which is a bit edgier. And then you've got the Positive Vibes Collection, which is all about, bright colors and uplifting messages.
And what about that Mosaic collection? I saw some really intricate patterns on their website for that one.
Oh, yeah, the Mosaic Collection is really cool. That's where they kind of showcase their design skills, like those patterns and textures. They're creating pieces that are really unique.
And is it just hoodies and joggers?
No, they've got other stuff too. They have some really nice denim jackets, and I love their recycled baseball jerseys.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're really stylish.
Okay, so they've got a good range of styles.
Definitely.
How's the quality?
That's a good question. From what I can tell, they're definitely focused on quality. They're using premium materials, and you can see the attention to detail in the stitching and the construction. And, they're using that print-on-demand model. So each piece is made to order, which means less waste and a greater focus on craftsmanship.
Right. We talked about their commitment to sustainability earlier.
Yeah,
It's good to see that they're actually following through on that. But let's be real, quality usually comes with a price tag.
True.
So how do their prices compare to other streetwear brands?
Well, they're positioning themselves as affordable streetwear, and I think they're actually hitting that mark. Like, their hoodies are in the £60 to $65 range. Joggers are around $55, which is definitely on the lower end for quality streetwear.
Okay, that's good to hear. So they're making this expressive casual accessible. It's not just for people with a ton of money to spend.
Exactly.
But can they keep those prices low as they grow? I mean, usually when companies scale up, their costs go up too.
Yeah, that's the challenge they're going to face, for sure. They need to find that balance between staying true to their commitment to quality and sustainability, but also, being competitive in a market that's very driven by fast fashion and low prices.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act. So if you had to sum up the AT clothing aesthetic in a few words, what would you say? Like, what's the overall vibe?
I'd say it's bold, it's playful, it's culturally diverse, and it's definitely got that cool, effortless streetwear vibe. But there's also a sense of purpose behind it. It's not just about looking good, it's about expressing your individuality and being part of a community that shares your values.
Okay, so they've got the look, they've got the message, they've got the community, but they're also trying to, like, disrupt a massive industry.
Yeah.
And with a pretty unconventional approach.
Right.
So is that even possible? Can they actually pull this off? I guess that's what we need to dive into next. Okay, so we've seen what they're about, this expressive casual thing, the community, the business model. But can a brand with, a kind of a quirky name and a fondness for hoodies, can they actually change the game? They're going up against some pretty big players in the fashion industry.
Yeah, it's a David and Goliath situation for sure. They're definitely ambitious. But, ambition alone isn't enough, especially in fashion. It's a tough industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do we even start with this? They're talking about a movement, a new way of thinking about clothes, about community. But is there any real substance behind the hype?
Well, let's go back to what we were talking about before. Their focus on community and user-generated content, those stretch goals on Indiegogo, they weren't just about, raising more money. They were about getting people involved, turning customers into advocates.
Right, and like that partner store page idea. It's almost like they're saying, hey, we're all in this together. Let's build this brand together.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very different approach from how most fashion brands operate. Usually they want to control everything, their image, their distribution. But 8T Clothing is embracing a more open approach. It's risky, for sure, but it's also really innovative.
So they're building a movement. But what's the movement about? What are they fighting for?
Well, think about the state of the fashion industry today. Fast fashion, disposable trends, this constant focus on profit, often at the expense of people and the planet. 8T Clothing is offering an alternative.
Right. They're saying you can have style without sacrificing your values. You can express yourself while still caring about the environment.
Yeah.
And you can be part of a community that shares those beliefs.
Exactly. And it's a message that resonates with a lot of people, especially younger consumers. They're tired of the way things are. They're looking for brands that are authentic, transparent, purpose-driven.
Okay, so they're tapping into a real cultural shift here. But can they actually make a difference? I mean, can a small brand like 8T Clothing really disrupt a global industry?
It's a big challenge, no doubt. But remember, David did beat Goliath.
That's true.
And I think 8T Clothing has a few things working in their favor.
Like what?
Well, first, they're using technology in a smart way. Their print-on-demand model allows them to be more agile, more responsive, and more sustainable than a lot of traditional fashion brands.
Right. They can experiment with designs more easily, cater to niche markets,
Yeah.
and avoid that whole, waste and overproduction problem.
Exactly. Second, they're building a real community, not just a following. Their focus on user-generated content, collaboration, shared ownership, it creates a sense of belonging that goes beyond just buying a product.
Yeah, it's about being part of something bigger.
Exactly. And third, they have a clear message. Expressive style, sustainable practices, community-driven approach. And that message resonates with a growing segment of consumers.
It's a powerful combination. But can they scale their model without compromising those values? Can they stay true to their vision as they grow?
That's the big question. It's easy to be ethical and sustainable when you're small. But as you grow, there's more pressure to cut corners, to prioritize profit over everything else.
Right. They've got to walk a tightrope.
Exactly.
Well, we started this deep dive wondering if 8T Clothing was just another streetwear brand, trying to sound a little fancier than they are. I think it's safe to say they're a lot more than that.
Yeah, I agree. They're a brand with a vision, a purpose, a real desire to make a difference. They're challenging the way things are done, pushing boundaries, offering a glimpse of what the future of fashion could look like.
So what's the takeaway here? What do we want our listeners to remember about 8T Clothing?
I think the big takeaway is that 8T Clothing is a brand to watch. They might not change the world overnight, but they're asking the right questions, experimenting with new approaches, building a movement. And that movement has the potential to make a real impact.
Absolutely. Whether you're a fashion enthusiast or a conscious consumer, or just someone who's curious about what the future holds, 8T Clothing is worth paying attention to. They're proof that style, sustainability, and community can go hand in hand.
And that even a brand built on hoodies can have a message worth listening to.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.